So, welcome to CareSmarts 360 on Air, home care podcast. I'm Dennis Gale, a senior sales consultant at CareSmarts. So, in a value based system, reducing readmissions is key. To optimize wound care and tackle this issue, it's vital to focus on the entire healing journey. Wound care protocols across the care network must be standardized to ensure consistent treatment. Further, it's important to invest in effective wound dressings that promote healing and reduce infection risk. Also, there should be clear communication between the caregivers and the care recipients who should be equipped with the self care skills and provided with the resources for post discharge wound management. So this comprehensive approach improves care outcomes, it reduces unnecessary readmissions, and demonstrates better value for home care providers. So for that, today we have on the panel Jennifer Bierhup. I'll just then still straight away start with the questions for that. So
Mhm.
today, welcome to the podcast again, Jennifer. So the first question that I have for you is, how can providers ensure seamless wound care coordination in the home setting? What do you say on that?
Wow. So you brought together two interesting pieces here, providers and home care.
Yep. Providers and home care. Yeah, you did.
Providers and home care, right? Because
Yep.
that's the disconnect, I think, a lot of times are the providers and then the home care. So the docs and the nurse practitioners, those providers, is
Hmm.
that what you're asking versus, and then the home care itself, how do they seamlessly communicate?
Yeah, yeah. That's the
Yeah,
thing. That's the thing we are talking about. Yeah.
yeah. Well, when it comes to providers, it is absolutely necessary it's simple. It truly is simple. It's over communication,
Hmm.
which one would think, okay, that's okay, Jen, well, what does that mean? And collaboration as well is so many times in home health when the provider either comes into the home to do wound care or they go out of the home for wound care,
Okay.
the orders are sent, but there is no other updates. So the home health is really left in the dark about what is going on, what really needs to happen.
Okay.
And so many times then multiple things get missed. And we can talk a little bit later about how maybe having somebody in your office that's dedicated to wounds will help bridge this gap.
Yeah.
But the onus also falls on the provider to communicate and to write very clear orders. So it's simple and very difficult all at the same time. So the providers have to also understand the rules and regs inside of home health. Every post-acute space, they're really in silos, right? They're
Yep.
really kind of
No problem.
siloed and they
That is.
really don't know what the other provider post-acute space needs to have to be successful. So really for providers and home health to live in synergy, they need to understand each other. So providers need to understand the rules and regs in home health. They need to understand a little bit how home health, believe it or not, gets paid. So it's a good idea for providers to stay within those Medicare guidelines. You talked about the dressings, using the appropriate dressings, the appropriate visit frequencies.
Hmm.
An example is a daily dressing change that is
Got it.
very difficult for a home health to accommodate.
Okay.
So can they work together then? Can the provider and home health work together for a better dressing option and for a different visit frequency? So that way the patient has good outcomes, but the agency and the provider are now collaborating and working together.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's a detailed saying about that. I also got to know a few new things that I wasn't even aware about that. Thank you. Thank you for that update.
Mhm.
And also, just moving further with the next thing, that any specific technologies or tools that can be used to monitor wound progress that you can talk about or facilitate communication between the team and the clients.
Right. Oh my gosh, I love it because these questions are like, I could probably write a 30-page paper about each question or spend the
Okay.
next hour discussing each question when I got sent these questions, I was like, oh boy, how do we condense this down? Um, Again, I mean, so we talk about home health EMRs, right? We talk
Yeah.
about the electronic medical record system or whatever system you're using for charting. And I have had the great privilege of reviewing charts, reviewing wound charts across the country in home health agencies for wounds.
Oh.
And so I will tell you that the EMRs, they vary greatly in the data that they collect for wounds. And I will not say any company names, but some are really pretty robust and some are missing quite a bit of information in order to risk mitigate. Yeah, so it's very, very important to understand your EMR and understand what it can do. Can it generate a report for wounds? Can it generate a dashboard? The crazy thing is a lot of times they can, and the home health have no idea that they can. They have no clue that they can generate a wound-specific report that will help them understand what different wounds they have on service, how many pressure injuries, how many VLUs, where they're at in the healing process. Most of the time, this gets missed. So that's the simple thing, right? Let's go to my EMR. What reports can I pull to be able to start to gather those metrics? Another thing I want to say too is that there's a really cool platform out there. I've been kind of following them, and it's been fun to watch, but it's called Care Coordination, and it's an app. And TJ Patel, who I've had a great, I got to meet him one time. What a great guy. He's a physical therapist with home health background. He did create a really great coordination platform between providers, the actual patients themselves, and the home health. And I really like where this is going. So it'll be really interesting to see if he can really kind of start to work this maybe even in with wounds, because I like the communication with this particular software and this particular app. Honestly, when it comes to technologies, use your EMR to the best advantage that you can. Integration is the name of the game. We don't want your home health nurses out there using 45 different pieces of technology and they don't talk to each other.
Definitely.
That's not going to work.
Yeah.
So again, it's understanding what you have. What do you have, and can you leverage it the best way possible?
Okay, surely. I would definitely like to go through that app. You told me that's Care Coordination, you said, right?
Yeah, Care Coordinations. I think it's carecoordinations.com. Really, really cool people. I really love what they're doing. I'm excited to see where they go. I just really love their passion for that case management care coordination.
Oh, perfect, perfect. No, I would like to go through it, and I'll also tell our audience to please check that. Okay, and then maybe with the next thing that we have over here, that's what data-driven metrics must be used to measure the effectiveness of what you suggest in that multidisciplinary wound care program in the home health setting.
Right. So when we talk about multidisciplinary, let me clarify with that, because physical therapists, occupational therapists, dietitians, the nurse practitioners themselves, the wound care nurses, the nurse aides, they all play a vitally important part of the team to heal this wound. Everybody does. So I love that you mentioned multidisciplinary.
Multidisciplinary.
The problem with multidisciplinary is that they don't like to talk to each other.
Okay.
So it's like, oh my gosh, we really, first and foremost, let's come together. And what are the metrics then? What's the primary core metrics that each of those groups could look at? Maybe not the nurse aides, but each of those groups could look at. And it's simple. Are you ready? Super simple, super simple. It is wound healing velocity. How much has the wound healed in 4 weeks?
Yeah, simple thing. Yeah.
It's super simple. Has this wound made any progress? The other thing is wound drainage. Seriously, you need to monitor your wound drainage every week, because that is an indication of inflammation. And if that drainage pops up, you might have an infection.
Oh.
Not hard. Not hard to monitor.
Not hard to monitor.
Wound bed percentages. These are the top 3 things: wound healing velocity, wound drainage, and wound bed. What does that wound bed look like? If it looked like it was 100% granulation last week, and then they came out this week and it's 50% slough, well, where's the problem?
Yeah, where's the problem for that?
And every single EMR charts this a little bit differently, but you can pull the metrics as simple. I'm telling you, as simple as this, because really there's a nerds and stones mnemonic out there, which stands for nerds is non-healing, N, E is exudate, R is redness, D is debris or extra stuff in the wound bed, and S is smell. If you follow nerds and stones, so nerds means the smaller infection possibilities,
Got
If you
it.
simply follow those, you will catch and risk mitigate at least 80 to 85% of your wounds before they go back to the hospital. It's that simple. It is that simple because we don't want them to go on to stones, which means a bigger infection,
Yeah.
because then they probably
Got
will
it.
go back.
Got
So
it.
yeah.
No, no, no. Please carry on. Please carry on.
So it's not earth shattering, but I'm here to tell you that so much of this documentation is missing.
Mm-hmm.
So much of it's not there. There's nobody following it. There's nobody in home health following it. But
Okay.
the scary part about it is that 30 to 50% of a skilled home health population is wounds, and it's the #2 reason why they go back to the hospital, those wounds.
Got your point. Got your point. Obviously, sometimes it's that easy. Sometimes the most simple things, we make it very difficult, and we just understand those aspects step by step. Whatever you're saying, our audience, maybe it's very helpful for you. Please, listen to this very carefully. Yeah.
Yeah, it's as simple as really, is the wound healing? What's the
Uh-huh.
drainage? And what does the wound bed look like? And you can risk mitigate off those 3 things. Absolutely.
And you said nerds and stones, yeah? Please
And
make
nerds and
note of it,
stones, right?
everybody.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep, nerds and stones. I won't even get into stones because stones means bigger infection. And if you
Uh-huh.
got those, chances are you're gonna go back to the hospital. We
Go
want to
back to
catch
the.
it when it's nerds, the little guys,
Uh-huh.
and use that mnemonic to help you risk mitigate.
Got the point. Got the point. I
Yeah,
hope everybody is
absolutely.
clear about that thing when they go through this session. So
Yeah.
the next thing, just a simple thing that is there, that are there any social determinants of health that may impact wound healing for clients at home? What do you say?
That is an understatement. That is the biggest understatement of the year. So chronic wounds are a clinical manifestation of a disease process. So
Okay.
those wounds aren't just there because there's, oh, you got a hole in your leg. Okay. It's there because you have an underlying disease processes that's not allowing something to heal, or it caused it in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these disease processes are things like diabetes, venous leg ulcers, also, smoking. A lot of these have to do with lifestyle and lifestyle choices.
Okay.
And so, and as you can understand, there's a lot of social determinants of health that don't allow people to be able to take care of themselves as best as they can. As a matter of fact, Healthy People 2030, if anybody's really interested, look it up. It's really interesting. They identified 5 different areas of social determinants of health. And those 5 areas are economic, education and access,
Mm-hmm.
healthcare access, neighborhoods, so who's there for them,
Who's there for them?
and social and community. So those are 5 things that we have identified that are the big hot button overall topics for social determinants of health. So inside of that, if our wound patients don't have the nutrition that they need,
Mm-hmm.
they can't get to food, maybe they live in a food desert or they can't afford it, they can't heal. If they
Got
don't
the point.
understand their disease process, right? If they
Yeah,
don't understand it,
definitely,
if their
definitely.
medical knowledge is lower, that's a struggle. Maybe their environment is tough. Maybe where they're at is tough. Maybe it's not clean. Maybe they struggle with that resource. Maybe nobody is there to help them with that wound.
That could be the
So
case.
one of the key things that we as home health and we as nurse providers across the board have to understand that social determinants of health is the key. And if you can start to identify some of those, if we can start to manage, and I'm not talking about saving the world here, people,
Mm,
just identify them, understand they are roadblocks to these patients. They're not non-compliant.
got it.
These are the roadblocks. And how can we all work together to kind of move some of the roadblocks out of the way?
Yep. Everybody working together on that part. Yep. That could be beneficial.
Absolutely.
Okay. And lastly, just one last thing, that the biggest challenges faced in delivering multidisciplinary wound care in the home setting, and just how you would like to address them.
Well, it's like everything we just talked about, right?
Everything in a nutshell. Yeah, so that's mostly because the thing is, mostly the sessions that I do, the last query I have for the person that is there with whom I'm doing the podcast, the last query is always that whatever we discuss and complete. So that's a sum of that thing that we have covered. Anything that you want to
Well,
add in that?
Absolutely. Yeah, let me add some quick things here. One of the key pieces here is that I would love to see home healthcare agencies educating their nurses. You come into home health, and wound care is not taught in neither medical school nor nursing school. Okay.
Okay.
So, and if 30 to 50% of your population is wounds, I really would love to see some investment from home healthcare agencies educating that nurse going out to the home, because that's the only way they're going to answer their OASIS questions correctly regarding wounds. It's the
Got
only
it.
way they're going to be able to document correctly and understand. And remember, I said some of those basic metrics, they have to be able to document correctly. They need to understand it. So first
Documentation,
and
yeah.
foremost, educate, care coordinate, work with that multidisciplinary team. Who in your agency is looking at these wounds every day? Who's doing it? Who's watching those wounds that show signs of NERDs that have increased drainage? Who's keeping track of that? Who's saying we need to do and we need to act on this right now? And then keeping those patients out of the hospital.
Okay.
And last but not least, again, it's going back to those social determinants of health. How can we start to learn how to meet our patients where they're at and how to help them move some of those barriers? Wound care, while super complex, is actually simple as well.
Complex but simple. Just to sum this up.
Yeah.
Okay. And just out of my curiosity, just wanted to check one thing that in the past few years, have you seen any major changes that the home care industry or the home health industry has seen? That they educating more their nurses, or it's the same as it was 3 to 4 years back?
It's the same as it was 3 to 4 years ago, and I'm really super sad to say that. But you know, home health agencies have been under the gun with PDGM changes, right? So we got that hit in 2020, and then we had a COVID thing, that
Yeah,
COVID thing that we all had.
that thing.
And
Cannot forget. Nobody can forget that. Yeah.
and then now they headed right into their value-based initiatives, purchasing initiatives. So they've just been hit with a lot of things. So some of those core ideas of wound care, how do you mitigate, how do you do these things? I just, unfortunately, I haven't seen it. There are some proactive agencies out there that has jumped and they have worked very hard. But there's a lot of agencies that their mindset is that we got to get that nurse, we got to get them out there, we can't train them, we can't. And it's there, we have a lot of work to do in the skilled home health area to get them where they need to be to take care of the majority of their population, which is wounds.
And they're not taking it as a primary thing to just educate their staff that they have. Yeah. So that should
Absolutely.
be
And that should be primary. And when those nurses get educated, what I have found is that those nurses feel that the agency supports them
supports them. Yeah.
and feels like they're included. And in the agencies that have been educated, they have a lower turnover rate because those nurses know now what they're doing. Nobody likes walking into a house by themselves and saying, I have no clue what I'm doing.
Oh, yeah, rightly said. Yeah.
So if that agency says, I want to train you or even get you certified or what have you, that nurse stays because they feel supported. They feel like they now can do their job.
They feel that the agency has invested in them, and
Yeah,
even if that's the time that the agency has given or the training that they have provided. Yeah, it definitely does help.
it does. It does help
I hope this
immensely.
thing changes and it changes for good and
Mhm.
for the nurses. Okay, so thank you, Jennifer, for sharing these great insights today. And I'm
Yeah.
sure the audience got in-depth knowledge about the significance of optimizing wound care in a value-based world to manage high readmission rates. Right. And to you, my wonderful audience, thank you for tuning in. Until the next episode, this is Dennis Gill signing off. Thank you.